what did she do that led her to be sentenced to 3 months in prison?
She went up on top of a digger to stop it from working. The digger was in the process of bringing a water mains to Shell site in Leenamore. Right. And she prevented it from working for a few hours. Now,
she was released after 10 or so days. Was there any indication as to why she was released?
They just came into the cell and told her that she was pack her stuff, she was being let go. They told her that she'd have to sign on in Belmullet Garda Station every day until the 1st of next month, and once a week after that.
Now, the Shell to Sea campaign and the Rossport support campaign is something that a lot of people know about. In recent weeks and months, there hasn't been a huge amount of publicity in the mainstream media, at least. Can you tell us what exactly has been happening up there?
Well, on an ongoing basis, we have been stopping trucks coming and going to Shell sites, just slowing. What it's doing primarily is slowing them down, which is part of what we have done from the very beginning. The Rossport 5, when they were sent to jail, they were sent to jail for obstructing Shell from going on their land. So the same methods have continued on to this day. But what we've been doing as well is collecting information, and we recently, Dublin Shell to Sea recently had a launch of liquid assets, letting people know exactly what was involved with the oil and gas, what the oil company figures are for what's around our coast. That was a long process, researching that.
Now, what exactly did they find?
Well, according to oil company estimates, there's 1.6 trillion worth of oil and gas off the coast, around about the coast, and some inland. This is, according to them, it's not all recoverable, but there would be a large portion of it that could be recovered. So when you consider in the present climate, where the country is gone down the tubes, as they say, the government are trying to cut back on everything, cut back on services. On the one hand, they're doing that to the citizens, and at the same time, they have made the conscious decision that the citizens of Ireland cannot have their own oil and gas. They're being used purely for the benefit of the oil companies.
Okay. Now, just to get back to the campaign itself, the Shell to Sea campaign, Izzy Ní Ghraidm was released from prison, as we know, last Friday. Other members of the campaign are going to be up in court as well, and I believe yourself, Terence, you're one of those people.
Correct. I'm up in court in Belmullet.
And what is that in relation to?
I was parked along the side of the road in obstruction. My car parked along the side of the road. There was maybe 2 foot of it out on the public road, as you'll see in any part of the country, the countryside. Still plenty of room for cars to go by, cars, trucks, tractors, and a Garda seen it and took down the numbers, the car or whatever, and I was just parked there for about a minute or two, so I was walking back out the car when he was there. When he came there, he told me I was causing obstruction. I said, it's the way everybody parks around here, and they're going into a field.
Yes.
So it went on from there, and he gave me he took my number. I was sent whatever it was in the post, a fixed penalty thing. I had a certain number of days to pay it. I didn't pay it. It doubled at that stage or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't pay that. Then I got a summons.
Right. So as a result of you parking your car incorrectly, you're up in court for that. Now, as you said, it's something that people do all over the country. Quite possibly it's something, and indeed not quite possibly, it's something people shouldn't do. However, it's hardly an offence worthy of taking up the court's time or anything else of that nature. Is there any reason, can you think of any reason as to why you were singled out, firstly for this fine and then for the treatment afterwards?
It's purely and simply harassment. Like the Gardaí, I have plenty of evidence of the Gardaí harassing me when I'm driving my vehicle, stopping me, telling me that neither me or my car is allowed to go wherever I want to go.
Does that happen on a regular basis, Terence?
On a very regular basis. Okay. That's the reason I did not pay it.
Right, and you believe that's as a result of your connection with the Shell to Sea campaign?
Oh, it absolutely is.
Okay.
Because while on the one hand the Gardaí are doing this sort of harassment to me and others and numerous other people around the area, at the same time Shell Security can drive without tax or insurance displayed.
Really?
That I have very clearly on video.
And has that been brought to people's attention?
It has, but the Gardaí seen it. They dragged people out of the way and assaulted people to make sure and waved the security van on. Okay.
Now, in your opinion and your observations and your involvement in the campaign, have you seen, maybe in connection to the example you've just given us, have you seen some kind of there's a greater amount of cooperation between the Guards and Shell than there is between the Guards and, say, yourselves as normal citizens?
In this area, the Gardaí operate as if they were Shell workers, as if they were employed directly by Shell.
Right. Okay.
That is a fact. That's the way they operate daily.
Okay. Now, in some of your press releases here, I've got a list of different rumours that you've listed here about the different projects that they're involved in, and it talks about the Ahus. Yeah. Rumours abound that the TBM is stuck in the Doab. It's a mysterious clay-like substance underlying much of the blanket bog in the area. It's well known and understood locally, but Shell are getting stuck in it. Can you elaborate on that for us? First, if you can just tell us what the TBM is, and then the Doab as well.
TBM is a tunnel boring machine where they plan to tunnel under Showadacon Bay. It's about 500 tons in weight, and they basically drill a tunnel through the bay, underneath the bay. But the problem is the type of ground they're going through. It's totally unsuitable for a tunnel. It's bordering on total stupidity, actually, to try to put a tunnel in there. Because of the nature of the underlying ground. There's an incredible amount of dope, which is sort of a semi-liquid, subsoil and water.
Right.
I heard from one of the engineers, the German engineers that were there to work on the job. He stated that it's like taking one step forward and 3 steps back. They understand that it may turn out to be not viable.
Now, in terms of the overall project that they have in mind for the area, where are they in relation to that? Is it near completion, or are they a long way off? Or
they're on the last stages of it.
Okay. Where is your campaign at the moment?
Our campaign at present carries on the same as ever.
Yeah.
Slowing down Shell as we can, getting information out there to the people. Our campaign continues on.
Right.
And the effect it's had on Shell and partners is it has almost quadrupled the cost of the project. There will be further delays and there will be further costs.
Right. And is your campaign going to continue indefinitely?
For as long as it takes.
As long as it takes, okay. And your ultimate goal is?
Shell out. They've shown contempt for the area. They've shown contempt for everybody in the area by polluting the local drinking water during construction of the refinery. Since then, they've tried to improve their image with a few grants, a couple of euros here and there to GEA, clubs and whatever. As far as we're concerned, that's bribery.
Yeah. And
bribery does not work. Mm-hmm. Right, they can buy some, but some of us are not for sale.
William Dalrymple, you gave a fascinating talk here this evening in the Royal Irish Academy on the battle for Afghanistan. To get straight to the point, you talked about a lot this evening. What parallels do you see between what you've covered in the book and the talk tonight and what's happening in Afghanistan today?
Well, I certainly have never come across any example in my reading of history where history replays itself more exactly. I mean, in a very general way, the trajectory of the whole Western intervention in Afghanistan after 9/11 follows a very similar trajectory to the 1840 war. There's an easy conquest, a period of sort of peace and harmony, a slowly growing insurgency, and then a sort of growing catastrophe when the Western forces find themselves surrounded in the cities with an entirely hostile countryside around them, followed by a humiliating exit. But by the micro detail also is parallel. Shah Shuja, the guy the British put in 1839, is the same sub-tribe as President Karzai.
Yeah.
The people who brought him down, the Ghilzai, are now the foot soldiers of the Taliban. So in terms of the kind of ethnic, the political geography of the insurgency, it's the same war fought with slightly different flags and a slightly different spin. And then when you even go to the kind of tiny micro details of individual cities, you go to Kandahar, the boundary of the Algandab River was the boundary in 1840 between the British and the insurgents, and today is the boundary between ISAF and Taliban. And you read reports from diaries of people, of British troops going down over the bridge and fighting the Durrani cavalry. Today I saw on the same boundary, an American convoy of Humvees go down and be blown up by an IED on the same spot. So while there are important differences, Karzai's a Democrat, he's more popular, the Taliban is more fractured, and Mullah Omar is a less dominating figure than Wazir Akbar Khan was in 1840. There are these differences, but overall it's an extraordinary replay of history, and in many places exactly so.
Now, you've been to Afghanistan yourself and you've seen the terrain. Surely would it not be obvious that it's a difficult place to conquer and then a difficult place to hold?
You'd have thought someone might have made this point, but it seems that despite a Foreign Office full of brilliant Oxbridge-educated people with brilliant verse, they don't tell the politicians this when they need to hear it. And Tony Blair was a fantastically ignorant, historically illiterate man, and walked in and performed the same mistakes as all his predecessors.
And what's the blind side? I mean, particularly
what's the plus side?
How are they not seeing this? Particularly the British.
Well, don't ask me. I can see it.
They're not getting the message.
Ask them.
They're not asking the message. Yeah, they keep getting drawn in.
They do. Each time they think they can walk in, do regime change, and be out in 6 months, and of course each year they're in for 10 years, and basically they're fucked. It's all.
That's the and in the meantime, the Afghans are suffering as a result of all these people wanting to.
Each time the Afghans, are ultimately, obviously there are deaths on all sides, and there are many tragic cases of innocent British 16-year-olds who sign up for the army and find themselves in some remote posting, get shot, and their family receive a body back home, and no one likes that. But ultimately it's the Afghans who take the ultimate.
The ultimate price, and the talk that was given afterwards, it was mentioned that despite all of these comings and goings across Afghanistan, whenever Afghans have been left to themselves, they manage quite well, and of late people.
Well, Afghan history, like anywhere else in the world, has its good points and its bad points. But no, there's 100 years between about 1870 and 1970 when it's a perfectly sensible united nation with it's fractured and it's very, very poor, and it is one of the poorest countries in the world, and it's up there with Mauritania and Eritrea and Bangladesh for one of the least developed regions historically. But nonetheless, it is a peaceful country, and it has just had this desperate history since 1979.
So we need not worry necessarily for their safety should the Americans and all the rest of them leave.
No, I think we should worry, because I think there's no question that the most likely outcome in the next few years is more years of civil war and bloodshed. And no, I mean, it's not impossible that things could work out, but it's extremely unlikely that it'll be anything other than a period of conflict and civil war ahead of us.
And you mentioned, or was mentioned at the end of the talk, that the Chinese might be the next. In fact, they are already doing it, except they're not going in with an army. They're going in with their business people.
Clever. They just bought everything up. And the Afghans always happy to do business.
Right.
They don't mind at all doing business with anyone, but they won't be invaded and they won't be dominated by an occupying force, and they'll fight until they're free again. And the Chinese seem to recognise this, and they've just turned up with large suitcases full of dollar bills and bought up the mineral rights.
Okay, good.
They bought the the rare earth, they bought the copper, and they'll be laughing over the next century when we have to buy our iPads out of China.
Absolutely. And you've written quite a lot about the history. Now, if you were to project forward into the future for Afghanistan, apart from the imminent civil wars and civil unrest in the Chinese,
so in the long term, there's no reason Afghanistan can't prosper as a nation like anywhere else, and given a fair wind, it will do. But the short-term prognosis is not optimistic. No, I think you'd be very foolish to put your money on a peaceful Afghanistan over the next 5 years. In the long term, it's got minerals. It's got a amazing country. It could be the Switzerland of Central Asia in particular.